Hi, Bob Thompson from Smartphone Matters. Today we're going to compare network speeds of the Straight Talk ATT compatible network and the T-Mobile compatible network using my Nexus 5. I have the Straight Talk T-Mobile network SIM in my phone, and we're going to run the speed test application, compare some results. Okay, so you can see I have an LTE connection. I only have one bar here, but we'll see how well that does. And I'm connecting to the server in the Boston area, so that's pretty close to where I live. So performance looks pretty good, I think, the first run here so far. A download speed of 16.94 megabits per second. The upload speed was 3.23 megabits per second. Let's run the second test. Looks like this one might actually be a little bit faster. All right, so we measured 17.02 megabits per second down. And 2.4 megabits per second up. We'll run a third and final test. All right, so we measured 17.9 megabits per second down and 2 megabits per second up on our third and final test. Let's take a look at the results. We can see the last three tests, the speeds are very consistent. We had 16.94, 17.02, and 17.9. And then for the upload speeds, we had 3.23, 2.44, and 2.0. And the ping times of 108, 106, and 109 milliseconds. So very consistent in the ping there. With the ping, the lower is better. It's a measure of latency. How long does it take to get the first data back to your response? Let's pop this SIM out of here and get the Straight Talk ATT SIM in the phone. All right, so we've recognized the ATT LTE network, and we can run speed test. Again, we have an LTE connection with only one bar. It's going to locate the server. All right, so this is connected to a server in Tampa, Florida. So we'll run an additional test and see if we connect to the server in Boston. Well, the ping time is back at 66 milliseconds, so that's actually low, so that's very responsive. So the first test we measured 7.13 megabits per second down. 1.82 megabits per second up. Let's run another test. So again, this is connecting to the server in Tampa, Florida. We may just rerun the speed test application and see if we can get it to connect to the server in Boston. But again, 66 millisecond ping time, 7.41 megabits per second down, and still waiting for the up to complete. So the up was 2.39 megabits per second up. Let's run the app again and see if we can get it to connect to the server in Boston, just so that we're, so that we're comparing sort of the same location. All right, we can see it connected to the server in Boston this time, but it doesn't look like it's going to make that much of a difference. We have the 66 millisecond ping time. We measured 6.19 megabits per second down. And 1.7 megabits per second up. If we say the test there with Boston was the first one, then we can consider this the second one. Again, 67 milliseconds ping time. We had 6.23 megabits per second down and 2.08 megabits per second up. And then the third and final test. So you can see already from the results, it's looking like the T-Mobile network is significantly faster. I find the speeds on the AT&T network vary quite a bit, so I'm going to kind of assume that that is related to how much traffic is on the network at different times during the day, because I know here at the same location, my speeds always fluctuate between time of day. Last run, the download speed was slower, 4.08 megabits per second down and 1.66 megabits per second up. Okay, so let's take a look at the results of our 6 runs of speed test. On the AT&T network, we had 6.19 megabits per second down, 6.23 megabits per second down, and 4.08 megabits per second down. We had 1.7 megabits per second up, 2.08 megabits per second up, and 1.66 megabits per second up. Then if we scroll down the list, these 2 runs with the 7s were when we connected to the server in Tampa, Florida with the AT&T network. So we're going to ignore those, and we'll just compare the 3 runs that we had connecting to the server in Boston. We had 16.94 megabits per second down, 17.02 megabits per second down, and 17.9 megabits per second down. Then we had 3.23 megabits per second up, 2.44 megabits per second up, and 2.0 megabits per second up. The ping times were slightly higher, 108 and 106 and 109. I think what we're seeing is that the T-Mobile network on the Nexus 5 was almost 3 times faster. That's a pretty significant difference in network speeds. I think a lot of that has to do with the work that T-Mobile has done to improve their network, especially here in the Boston area. T-Mobile has taken a lot of their existing network frequency and moved that over to make it compatible with 4G LTE. They also bought a company called Metro PCS, and they've taken the radio frequencies that Metro PCS has and have reallocated or refarmed them to support 4G LTE here in the Boston area. So now, does that mean that I would switch to using the Straight Talk T-Mobile network compatible SIM? Probably not for me. I primarily use my iPhone, and it doesn't work as well on the iPhone for some reason, and I'm going to make a video about that. The issue with the T-Mobile network is that in the areas where they've updated it, it's really awesome and it's working great. But if you go into a place where they haven't updated the network, you end up with really slow 2G data. So we actually had a reader at Smartphone Matters who was using the T-Mobile network in his phone. And the issue he had was that in some areas it was working great on the 4G network, and then as he was traveling he would completely lose service as he went into areas where the coverage wasn't very good. But if you live in a city that has excellent T-Mobile network coverage, this is a good choice, especially if you don't really travel outside of that area. You might actually have some faster speeds. The other reason I might use the T-Mobile network compatible SIM was that if I had a T-Mobile phone, then my phone was locked to T-Mobile and I was switching to Straight Talk, that T-Mobile network compatible SIM should work in your phone. That's our look at speed tests between the two networks. Visit Smartphone Matters. Thanks for watching.